A battle between Rhyme and Partivia to conquer the dungeon and obtain power. But all 10,000 men sent in perished. But a miracle child born during a stormy night will bring about a change. Now in the present, a group of army renegades turned bandits rob an old guy and his young female family members, until Sinbad shows and beats them single-handedly. He offers to be their bodyguard after learning the males in their family have been drafted into the army. But since they are going by sea, they don't need him. Instead, they give him some fruits, but when they open the barrel, Yunan is inside. Sinbad brings Yunan back to his home, where he lives with his sick mother, Ezra. The next day, after Sinbad leaves for a job, Ezra talks to Yunan and blames herself for making him stuck in this village. She remembers that her late husband told her he had a special strength. That is why she is asking a favor. If anything happens to her, please lead him to the right path. Suddenly, one of their neighbors has bad news when Sinbad is beaten up by Draggle, leader of the Western platoon. Sinbad has repeatedly ignored letters about his draft into the military. He must enlist and has no right to refuse. Sinbad objects to his thinking that people are like tools of war and should work for the country's sake. His father and the rest of the men died of sickness. That is why he will never join the army. With the villagers supporting Sinbad, Draggle reminds him of his mother. This refusal is equivalent to a state crime and will affect her too. There is great power in the dungeon, which Rhyme must obtain as ordered by the highest imperial order. Later, Sinbad talks to Yunan about his situation. Enlist or not, he will die either way. Yunan then suggests that he become king and change the world with his own hands. That dungeon contains the power he needs to become king. Meanwhile, Draggle is being told by his superior to lead another expedition to the dungeon. Draggle knows that leading civilians this time is to calm the masses as long as a Draggle family member is victimized, since 1,000 elite troops that were sent earlier on have been annihilated. First, Princess Sarandine gives him encouragement, and he vows to bring her success and protect her. The next day, as the troop is preparing to head into the dungeon, it seems Sinbad is the only one who didn't turn up. Draggle doesn't think a missing civilian or two will affect the mission, but surprise, Sinbad is here. Sinbad dashes in, fueled by Ezra's motivation. She gave him his father's sword and hoped he would go forth and do what he had to instead of holding himself back for her sake. Yunan is excited but also scared to see what kind of man Sinbad will turn out to be. Sinbad is now inside the dungeon. Draggle's men are dying like ants, and the dragons are smart enough to take them and dump them in an abyss of thorns. Draggle is saved by Sinbad, but he is not grateful. Instead, he brags about his Partivia lineage, and because his real name is so long, Sinbad just doesn't care for all that and just calls him Draken. They arrive before a large door believed to take them to the next level. A huge dragon king guards it. Draken wants Sinbad to be the decoy while he goes to the door. Sinbad is not pleased with his military mindset, which has caused casualties. Draken makes his own way to the door, but it doesn't open. The Dragon King spots him. He is about to die. He panics and fears death. Again, he is saved by Sinbad. But this time he wants to die for being a failure as a soldier. Sinbad lectures him about some lessons in life, like that it is natural to fear death because he is a human before a soldier. He picks up the shield, and suddenly water comes up. He uses the shield to ride the stream to kill the dragon. It dropped a dragon crystal that enabled them to open the door. They make their way through the various dungeon traps as Draken agrees to cooperate with him. In the deepest dungeon room, Sinbad touches a magic lamp, and appearing before them is the genie ball. He wants to know which of them will become king, as both proclaim they are the one, so they need to fight. Although Draken is adept with the sword, Sinbad is better streetwise, and his fist fighting is better. Draken takes a beating as he remembers Sarandine. Her words give him the strength to fight on because he made a promise that he couldn't die. But it is heartbreaking when he remembers that after Sarandine was married to his older brother, Barbarossa, he found out it was just a political marriage, and it was devastating that he never got to tell her his feelings. Eventually, Draken loses. Ball accepts Sinbad as his new king. When they return outside the dungeon, it is gone. The army praises Sinbad and wants him to hand over the treasure and power. However, Sinbad will not. They take this as a sign of betrayal and are ready to kill him. Yunan assists Sinbad in calling forth Ball's power to roast those soldiers. Yunan then gives him free service by flying him back to his home. Although Sinbad is glad to be back, the villagers are worried. He has been gone for 2 weeks, and Ezra is dying. She is happy to see her son one last time before she breathes her last breath. In the aftermath, Sinbad's success has encouraged the villagers to turn against the army. His name is well spread throughout the land, whereas Draken has become some sort of eyesore to the royalty. Naturally, they cannot let Sinbad do as he pleases, so an order was set up to capture him. Sarandine leads her troops for this, and she does not hesitate to attack Sinbad. He destroyed her breastplate to immobilize her. Then he takes her hostage in his little dinghy. After a safe distance, he puts her in a barrel so her men can get her. Sinbad's quest has taken him up north to the icy seas. He encounters Hina and his younger sister, Pipirika, of the Amuchak tribe, who are trying to hunt and kill a sea dragon as a passage right to adulthood for the former. He fails and almost gets killed until Sinbad shows up and kills the creature. When Sinbad gets acquainted with them, Pipirika thinks Hina did the killing all by himself, but the latter, although feeling guilty about it, cannot bring himself to tell the truth. Meanwhile, Draken has been summoned by his superior. Normally, his failure would have meant exile from the army, but his brother negotiated with the king for a second chance. He has also given Partivia's secret assassin unit, Sham Lash, to retrieve Sinbad's metal vessel. Back to Sinbad, he wants to follow them to their village, although he was warned they do not welcome outsiders. Sinbad wants to see what the world has to offer and change it with his own hands. Hina and Pipirika's father, who is also the tribe chief, does not welcome Sinbad to the village and remains suspicious. He praises his son for a job well done and wants him to explore a strange monument that appeared up north, considering this a step closer to being a true warrior. However, Sinbad doesn't want his father to do that because that structure is a dungeon. He shows proof that he is a conqueror, and his father naturally welcomes him because it shows that he is the strongest. He agrees to heed Sinbad's words and not explore them. The tribe celebrates Hina's victory, although he himself is ridden with guilt, especially in the past when he was taunted by many for being unable to do the impossible. After the party, one of the Sham Lash assassins, Jafar, tries to kill Sinbad in his sleep, but thanks to his sleepwalking, the plan is clumsily foiled. Sinbad easily defeats him. Sinbad politely interrogates him, but his mouth is tightly zipped. When he starts badmouthing his own parents and how he killed them, Sinbad slaps him. But he manages to break free and, with the help of his comrades, they escape. Right before the dawn of the ceremony, Pipirika is devastated when she learns Hina has left a note that he is going to conquer the dungeon. He believes that by obtaining its powers, he can become like Sinbad. Sinbad makes haste to go after him as he explains how many have died in order to achieve their dream in the dungeon. Although he cannot guarantee if Hina can come back alive or not, what he can guarantee is that he won't be dying. Hina has already entered the dungeon. Draken and Sham Lash are also in the dungeon, and Jafar, who is also the boss of the assassins, has a score to settle with Sinbad. Hina encountered a monster crab, but it was defeated by Sham Lash. They ignore Hina because he is weak, and it makes Hina mad. He fights them, so Jafar's subordinates, Vidal and Mehad, transform into monsters to take him on. Again, he is saved by Sinbad. Jafar instantly goes into killing mode, but Sinbad can still best him. Before they are cornered, Hina takes Sinbad and escapes into the lake. The mage advisor, Fallon, freezes the lake, although the duo is able to escape. Fallon then mocks the Sham Lash for not being as great as she thought and has them drink a special potion that heals all their wounds. Draken reaches the final room, where the wolf-like Valfor appears before them. He can sense Fallon's body is fake and gets rid of her. All that is left for her is just a little doll, as the real one is by Barbarossa's side. When Draken mentions his intention to bring back this power for his king, Valfor loses interest and reverts to his true form. He believes that with that kind of answer, Draken isn't fit to be king. When Sinbad and Hina finally arrive, Valfor decides to make it interesting by having them compete in a game. All of them have an equal chance of becoming kings. The game is that whoever catches Minifer will become the next king. If nobody catches it before the time is up, nobody leaves this dungeon. Sinbad then proposes that the only way is to cooperate. They will surround Minifer, and when the signal is given, everyone will jump to grab it. But this gives the signaler a disadvantage. Sinbad offers to be that since he already has ball. His primary concern is to get out of here alive. Everybody agrees with his plan, and when they corner Minifer, it jumps up in the air and Sinbad grabs it. Sinbad comments that if he had not done this, nobody would have left the dungeon. Therefore, it isn't about who is right or wrong, but who is most suitable to become king, which is him. Sinbad wants Valfor the most because he wants to create a country to unite people around the world. Draken shoots down his ideal, as it only exists in dreams. That is why Sinbad tells him he is doing it. He will establish a new nation to change the world, and he wants all of them to be his allies and join him. Hina feels inspired to follow him. Even Sham Lash is inspired because she senses true freedom. However, Jafar, under false pretenses, tries to kill him. Suddenly, the Shamlock trio started feeling pain. They start transforming into monsters. Draken prepares to kill them, but Sinbad will not allow his comrades to die. Sinbad fights the raging monster. Valfor believes there is another option. As the trio forms the core of the monster, if they can separate them in one shot, they will be saved. Sinbad attacks, and he slashes the arm. but it moves and gets Sinbad's sword, and Fallon materializes herself via the doll and steals Sinbad's sword. She announces that Draken has been promoted to lieutenant due to special circumstances. A special broadcast from Barbarossa himself says he has failed to capture Dungeon and Sinbad. He also knows about his feelings for his wife, Serendine. He considers Draken no longer royalty and tells him to go die in some corner. Draken falls into despair while Hina struggles with the monster. Now Hina understands why Sinbad has always done things his way. He realizes that even if he had the power of a king, he would never become like Sinbad. Hina will use his spear to destroy the core while Sinbad distracts it. Draken has revived to help. His eyes are now open. He thought it was honorable to die protecting his country, but now he knows who he needs to protect. The trio cooperates to destroy the core and send Fallon out of this realm, and Sinbad reclaims his sword. However, shortly after, Valfor starts transforming again. Because of his overused body, he is in danger of fusing with the core. When this happens, the only way to stop him is to kill him. Sinbad has not lost faith in him, so he is going to forcibly pull him back out. He dives into his subconscious to see a couple of Valfor versions contradicting each other about pain and surviving. Sinbad convinces them with his warmth to stop living this lie. Then he attacks himself, using Ball to pull Valfor out. After that, Valfor now asks who is to be king. Everyone, without doubt, agrees that Sinbad should be their king. And so, with Valfor also recognizing himself as king, yet another dungeon is cleared. Now they are back outside the dungeon with all the loots. The Amuchak tribe greets them. But Draken won't follow them back to their village and will head back to his own country instead. There is something he needs to do back there. He knows it is dangerous, but he has his own reservations about following someone else again, even if that someone is as great as Sinbad. Draken is then given a household vessel that holds some of the jinn's power to help serve the king, although at this point in time it is not activated yet. Back in the village, the ceremony to turn Hina into a full-fledged warrior. His father gives him a spear and a new name, Hinahoho, which means clear as the ocean. Later, he speaks to his father about his wish to leave the village because he wants to follow Sinbad in making a country that unites the world. Father couldn't be happier, and gives his blessings. Hinahoho and Sinbad then head to a rival Amuchak village, where the former seeks the tribal leader's daughter's hand in marriage. The leader asked what he could give his daughter, as she already had everything. He becomes mad, thinking he is joking that he cannot give her anything. Hinahoho is unfazed by his threats but continues, saying he can't give her anything now but can share a dream and help realize it. A dream that belongs to his master, Sinbad. Soon, Sinbad establishes a trading monopoly with Amuchak, and his name spreads across the world as a great warrior and merchant. He then forms a merchant fleet known as the Sindria Trading Fleet. Hinahoho's wife, Rurum, is teaching Valfor and Sinbad about manners and other aspects of education. Arriving at the port of Rhyme, they set up a stall to trade Amuchak goods. Sinbad is a hit with the ladies, but the guards break them up as they have no permit to trade. Shortly, a trader named Harun wants to buy all their goods. He claims it is okay because he is from the Merchant Association. He hands them a contract. They are happy with their sales, but later that night they discover that their goods are being sold in another store at 10 times the price. They realize they have been tricked, but they can only blame their own inexperience. This fires up Sinbad to become a trader. Sinbad stays back to do the paperwork and register while the rest leave on their ship to get more stock. Sinbad then bumps into Harun and asks him to dinner. Despite Harun pointing out that he was duped, Sinbad is okay with it since it was a learning experience. Harun lets him in on a secret about why Sinbad lost. This is the first time Amuchak goods have been sold here. Not only did he lose a great opportunity, but he also let someone else fix its price. Sinbad then displays a little of his powers and tells the stories of his dungeon conquering. When asked what he will do with those powers, Sinbad intends to change the world. As an individual, he knows he cannot do it. Therefore, he will become king. Harun then tells him that to become part of the association, another merchant must recommend him, and he must then pay an upfront admission fee of 1,000 gold coins. He wants Sinbad to show him in a month's time that he can earn that much with his own power. Harun leaves but remains skeptical that Sinbad can do it and will be crushed then. Sinbad thinks about what he can do to earn money, but being a bodyguard and washing dishes won't get him anywhere near it. Then he hits on an idea. A month later, when Harun returns from an overseas trade, he sees lots of people hovering around Sinbad. He is telling great tales of his dungeon exploits. They love his stories and throw him money. Harun is impressed, but Sinbad requests more time to meet his target as he hasn't reached 1,000 gold coins yet. Harun then pays him a bag of gold coins. It is his fee for listening to his story. Grateful and wondering who Harun is, he learns he is actually the king of Balbad, King Rashid. Meanwhile, Jafar endures more of Ruramu's education. He relents after she tells him all this is to repay his master, who showed him a new path. But now Ruramu goes into labor and teaches Jafar how to be a midwife. A healthy baby boy is born, Kikiriku. He is heavy and big for a baby, but he gets attached to Jafar. Sinbad can't wait to trade, but Rashid tells him to do his play. Sinbad thought it was just to get funds for trading, but Rashid tells him about the other harder aspects of trading, like logistics and warehousing. There is also advertising. Right now, his only asset is his body, and what better way than to use it for play entertainment? Sinbad takes up his advice, and for his first performance at the theater hall, it is full, although the people are skeptical if this is a scam. But once he shows his magic, everyone is dazzled and in awe. Soon he becomes famous, and a hall is not enough to hold his audiences. At this point, Hinahoho and others have returned. They are ushered by the guards to the jam-packed Colosseum to see Sinbad in action. As they are captivated by the performance, Kikiriku wanders off by himself. Jafar realizes it too late as he goes looking for him, only to find him in the clutches of a Colosseum monster underground. Jafar puts his life on the line to rescue Kikiriku. Because of his determination, he is able to use his household vessel and zap the beast. When Jafar opens his eyes, Sinbad is by his side. Kikiriku is safe. Jafar explains the lightning coming out of his weapon. Sinbad deduces that if he is the first dungeon conqueror, then Jafar is the first dungeon warrior. After that, Ruramu gives her personal thanks to Jafar. The next day, everyone is shocked that a lot has taken place during their absence. Sinbad has now established a trading house named Sindria Kor. It is even more shocking to learn that Rashid is his mentor. Rashid has to return to Balbad, and if Sinbad ever stops by, he can head directly to the palace and talk about trade. Sinbad can trade all they want and get enough funds to form a new country. Sinbad also published an autobiography, as Rashid suggested. It was supposed to be part of his advertising, but everyone takes it as a form of story and entertainment. Sinbad, Jafar, and Hinahoho arrive at the kingdom of Sasan. The rest remain in Rhyme to man the store. They are here to secure a trading route with them since they have special metals. But Sasan has secluded itself from the world and is not particularly interested in trading with others. As Sinbad would really want to know Sasan's culture as an individual, it is suggested he visit the Sasan Knights, who are headed by its king, Darius Leaks. If he is acknowledged by Darius, then Sasan will accept him. Sinbad tries to get close to Darius, only to be shoved away by guards who view him as suspicious. While discussing at a tavern, Mistress comes up to them and is interested in talking with them. He is the son of Darius and wants to leave this country. Because of his country's doctrine that makes him unable to leave, he is sick of being confined in this small cage filled with stiff people and wants to explore the world. Mistress respects Sinbad after he tells his dungeon-conquering stories. After that, Mistress meets Darius, who knows of Mistress' ambition to leave the country and tells him to forget it and be a good role model to his brother, Spardos. Mistress vehemently protests, and all he gets is his father's slap. When Mistress begs Sinbad to take him away, Spardos tries to convince him to change his mind. However, this only strengthens Mistress' resolve to leave the order officially. Sinbad agrees to take him away, but he will not do it secretly. And eventually Mistress must settle everything by himself. Outside, Sinbad bumps into Yunan, who tells him that after he conquered the first dungeon, many dungeons subsequently popped up. This means there are now many dungeon conquerors, ranging from small nations to big empires, and Sinbad will have to deal with them. Darius is one of them. But Sinbad doesn't think this is necessary because he is here just to trade. Meanwhile, Mistress challenges and defeats all the top knights in the order. All that is left is Darius. Mistress is no match for Darius when he uses his dungeon power. Mistress eventually loses, and the penalty is death. That is when Sinbad steps in. Sinbad demonstrates his power to get his attention and the right to fight him. Darius can do anything he wants to him if he loses, but if Sinbad wins, he will take Mistress with him, and Sasan must sign a trade pact. Mistress tries to dissuade Sinbad from fighting Darius as he explains Darius' powerful barrier that blocks any attacks and could also return them many times over. This only makes Sinbad more interested. After a few clashes, Sinbad is going to show his true power. He combines with his jinn to harvest the ultimate power. Sinbad then takes Darius to the remote mountains to talk. Since Darius isn't totally convinced, Sinbad demonstrates his truly fearsome powers by blasting holes in the mountains. Sinbad explains his intention to start a trade route and form an alliance with Sasan. Had Sinbad's intention been invasion, Sasan would not have stood a chance from the beginning. Sinbad also tells about the numerous dungeons and the people who have conquered them. This will lead to unbalance in power equilibrium and wars. Sinbad doesn't want that, but a world with peace. To achieve that, he needs Sasan's power. When they return, before Darius can admit his defeat, Sinbad says they fought to a draw. This leaves others bewildered. As they are cut off from the outside world, they only believe their doctrine that their king can only wield godly powers. Sinbad's appearance smashes all that, as Darius explains about the abnormalities happening around the world. And Sinbad is also one of the many chosen ones by God. They believe him because a king's word is like God's. Darius allows Mistress to accompany Sinbad on his journey as a special mission. He admits he might be envious of his son for wanting to venture out into the world because he had that goal too when he was his age. But duty has kept him from doing so. Therefore, Mistress should travel the world in his place. After making peace with his father, Mistress is now properly saying goodbye to Spartos. Arriving at the borders of Artemyra, they see beautiful girls riding big birds. They try to tease the guys by hinting at showing them a good time. But Sinbad's charm to take on their challenge either swoons or disgusts them. As they trek up the deep valley, Sinbad is complaining of being hot and tired. Sinbad tries to cheat by transforming into his jinn and flying. Jafar beats him up and lectures him about doing so, making them look even more suspicious. When they finally reach the city, they realize they stink and cannot see the queen in this state. As there are no inns because this place rarely has visitors, they can only bathe themselves via the river or red light district. So they decided to go to the river to clean themselves. After that, when they see the queen, Artemyra, she chastises them, mainly because they are men. She dealt with Rurumu all the while, and since she is not here, she is not interested in doing business with them. Sinbad thought he could use his charm to persuade her, and he even touched her. But it doesn't work all the time. She has her guards strip and arrest them. Mira and Sinbad's metal vessel resonate, and she steals Sinbad's metal vessel and still detains him for offending her. Sinbad, Jafar, and Mistress are thrown off the valley, while Hinahoho is left behind because they are interested in his manly physique. Sinbad's team survives the fall and they explore their surroundings wearing only a leaf. After many days have passed, Mistress hates to break it to them, but they've got an even more important mission to complete. Unfortunately, Sinbad is so comfortable with life down here and so enlightened that they might be trapped here forever. So Mistress tries to explore a way out but finds a slab of meat. It is also processed. But all Sinbad and Jafar are concerned about is that they have food. They don't even care about the gemstones embedded in it. When they return to explore the area, there is more meat now. They collect them all, but giant birds soon swoop down and pick them all up. This gives Sinbad the idea that those meats and gems are partly the work of girly men mining them under the watchful eye of the dominant women. Mistress is further losing faith in Sinbad because he continues to collect meat. Then giant slabs of meat fall down, and this is the chance Sinbad has been waiting for. Everyone is shocked that the trio popped out of the giant slabs. As explained, these men dropped meat into the valley so the birds would pick it up along with the gems. Because they have been eating the meat, the gems are not coming back, so they thought some predators were eating the meat. Thus, they make bigger ones so that they cannot be devoured quickly by the time the birds come to collect. After that, Sinbad sneaking into Mira's chamber surprises her. It is to retrieve his metal vessels. She isn't going to let him go over this insult. Both transform into their jinn forms and fight. At first, it might seem Sinbad is using different jinn forms to counter Mira's, and even so, he is having a hard time. Her jinn possesses 3 different elements, ice, lightning, and fire, and she believes she dominates this battle, thus eliminating the need to transform into another form. She then realizes that Sinbad has been easily evading her attacks and popping up wherever he wants. As clarified, Sinbad is using Valfor's true power of stagnation. He is stagnating Mira's abilities, and she hasn't realized this yet. She thinks she is fighting someone from a different dimension and laments her first loss to a man as she gets frozen in ice. The next day, the guys see Mira on her throne. She is alright but a bit disappointed about her loss. Though she notes she has never felt such excitement in a long time, Sinbad is the first man to do so. She agrees to become his trading partner and feels it is beneficial to her country and people. But personally, her other reason is that she doesn't want to become his enemy. After learning his goal of stopping wars and gathering powerful countries to help achieve it, she can tell he subdued Sasan the same way because she knows that kingdom doesn't allow foreigners. That was the only way he could have made allies with that country, and he could have easily destroyed Artemyra the same way too. Mira then explains the mysterious Magi. This makes Sinbad wonder if Yunnan is one. Since they depart tomorrow, Mistress is seemingly happy about the free time, and they have forgotten about Hinahoho, so they've released him back to his comrades, saying they felt good. Hinahoho's face looks guilt-ridden. He keeps asserting that he didn't do anything wrong. After that, Mira sees them off. She sends Parsine Praetimia, Artemyra's diplomat, with them. She also introduces all her daughters. The youngest one, Pisti, gives Sinbad a feather, which symbolizes luck in their country. Sinbad returns to their company, and everyone is glad to see them. Thank you for watching till the end, and please don't forget to subscribe.